A very good evening to all of you and welcome back to our channel The Teacher, and in this tutorial I will talk about the stuck animation in PowerPoint 2016 or 2019. And here we have two slides. Let me show you that. On the second slide we have the wireframe view where you can see all the shapes that I have used in this animation. And this animation is inspired by one of the animation by Lustig at tumblr.com, and you can see more of his animations at this website. I have given the link of this website on my blog post where I have completely written all the steps that you can follow to create this stuck animation if you are interested in reading. So you can see that is my WordPress blog dashboard, and I am using WebPad editor to record my audio with the Apple headphones. So that is the cheapest way to record audio. So first of all, I would like to show you all the objects that I have used to create this duck character. And for that I will go to the home tab, will click the select drop down button, and here I will click on the selection pane. And here you can see all the objects that I have used, and you can use the insert tab, shapes drop down button, and here you can see all the shapes that I have used. So here is the rounded corner rectangle, that is rectangle, and that is partial circle, or you can also use an oval, and later you can use the merge shape subtract command to subtract the oval from the rectangle. For the legs I am using again the rounded corner rectangles, and you can see all these objects in the selection pane. Beside that, I would also like to show you this wireframe view where you can clearly see all the shapes, and later we have just fill the colors. For color filling, but I would like to tell you one quick trick. Let me show you this animation, and let's say I press the start and print screen button. That way I can take a screenshot of the entire screen in Windows 10, and later I come to the PowerPoint and then can paste Ctrl V. If I want to fill the same color here, what I can do, I can go to the shape format, shape fill, eyedropper, and then choose that color. And later you can remove the outline by clicking on no outline from the shape outline drop down button. So that is the technique I use to replicate the same color. And another thing that I would like to tell you here is about these circles. If I select them and zoom in, then you can see these three extra ovals here. One is right here and two these ovals. I am using these ovals for the custom anchor point, and you can watch my video on custom anchor point. I have given the link in the description and in the cards. So if I select this object here, then you can see it is called up nostril. So I can place it sideways so you can see it clearly, and you can see that is the rounded corner rectangle and that is the oval, and I have grouped them together. And why I am doing that? Because I want an anchor point right here. So PowerPoint doesn't have any anchor point option. It is very hard to create these kind of animations without a custom anchor point. So let me tell you one more thing about the anchor point, and that is in PowerPoint by default there is no anchor point. So let's say we have this kind of shape, and when I will try to rotate, then PowerPoint will rotate this shape by assuming this center as an anchor point. So let me rotate this, and you can see that it is rotating around that anchor point, nostril, right from this point. So I grouped a shape with that. You can use any shape with any size, doesn't matter. What you only need to consider is where you want the anchor point to be adjusted. So if I move this shape sideways, then you can notice that the anchor point now has changed to this point, and if I now rotate this shape, then it will rotate from that point. So I hope you got my point. So let's get back to this, and here I am going to open the animation pane, and let me explain you all the animations that I am using on this character. And both of these panes are the most useful pane in PowerPoint. So let me explain you by telling you about the selection pane first, and here I am going to click on the hide all, and now I only want to see that body, tail and neck object. So here I am going to click on the eye button, and by clicking on this eye button you can hide or unhide the objects. When you show particular objects through the selection pane, then you also only see the relevant animation of those objects only. So if I turn on this object, then you will start seeing the animation effect of that particular object. and you can rename these layer by double clicking on them. And here you can type any name, let's say the head. So in this original animation you can see that the duck body is going up and down 4 times with short motion paths, and then it takes a long motion path with slow start and then fast ending. So same thing I try to create here by using the motion paths. So here you can see that I am using the down motion path, and you can see the length of this motion path is very short, and I am repeating this effect 4 times, as you can see here in the timing tab. And you can open this effect option property by double clicking on an animation effect, and here you can see the timing, and I always use with previous. The time duration of this animation is 0.15 seconds, and we are also using auto reverse on this animation without any smoothness or bounce rate. So hit the OK key, and again I am applying the motion path, and that time I am using the up motion path because we want to move the body up a longer path. As you can see here, the ending point is right here, and then want to fall back to the same position. So if you see, the timings of this animation is 0.6 seconds, and there is a delay timing of 1.2 seconds. After 4 up and downs, then we want this long motion path to work. So that is why I have added 1.2 seconds delay here. And in the effect option you can see that I am using smoothness of 0.4 seconds. I want the body to move up slowly and then bounce back very fast. So that is why I am not using any smoothness on end point, and we are using auto reverse. We want this body to move up and reverse back to its original position. So the same effect has been applied on the other objects, and let me show you. As you can see, on the head I have used the same animations. On the mouth, on the up nostril and on the down nostril, you can see one effect on the down nostril, note the second one, note the second motion path, and there is another effect on the nostril as well, grow shrink and spin. So my point is, when you need to replicate the same animation on other objects, like I will show you one example here. On the head, I will replicate the same body tail animation on the head. So I will delete both of them by selecting one, and then you can hold down the shift key to select more effect at one time, and then you can hit the delete key from the keyboard. So if I want to apply the same animations on the head, so what I can do, I can hide all of these and will turn on only those two objects, head and body. So here I am going to select the body, and I want to apply the same animation on the head. So after selecting the body, you can click on animation painter once, and then you can click on the head. So that way you can replicate the same animation. But you can also notice that the previous effect will get removed. So I will undo that to explain you about the grow shrink effect. So after replicating these two animations using the animation painter, what I did, I again selected the head and then applied another effect on it by clicking on the add animation and grow shrink. Let me tell you one thing here for the beginners. In PowerPoint, you only need to understand that if you want to apply an animation on any object, what you need to do, you can select that particular object, go to the animations tab, click add animation, and here you only need to choose what animation you want to apply. That's it. And later you can configure the animation properties by double clicking on the animation from the animation pan. So later I applied the grow shrink effect, and you can see that then I use the animation painter to replicate the same animation on mouth, up nostril and down nostril. There is a little bit difference between these animations. Most of the animations has been replicated using the animation painter. So here on the head I am using grow shrink 105% only vertical growth with a start smoothness of 0.4 seconds with auto reverse, and the timing is duration is 0.6 seconds with a delay timing of 1.25 seconds. So if I select this animation, you can see that I have also added a delay timing of 0.05 seconds, and here I am starting this animation at 1.25 seconds, whereas the body tail animation end at 1.20 seconds. So there is a delay between these three effects, 0.05 seconds. And why I am doing that, if you see the animation for only those two objects, the body and the head, Let me show you the animation. Here you can see that it is growing vertically. Let me hide this slide by right clicking on it and choose hide slide. That way it will not appear in the slideshow, and I am going to slideshow, setup slideshow. Here you can make a check mark on loop continuously until escape and hit the OK key, so you can watch the animation in a loop during the slideshow. That way you don't have to click again and again on slideshow, and later you can use the animation painter to replicate the same animations on the rest of the objects. So now we will talk about the nostrils. On the mouth we have used the same animation, so we will not talk about them. Now we will talk about the up nostril and down nostril, and you can see that for up nostril these three animation effects are the same, but we have also added another animation, and that is the spin animation. If I double click on this animation, you can see that I am rotating this nostril to 65° counterclockwise without any smoothness with auto reverse, with a duration of 0.6 seconds and delay timing of 1.25 seconds. Here I also want to show you the same thing. Now we have applied the spin animation to nostril at 60°. So what will happen? It will rotate like this because of that anchor point, that oval you can see there. So that is the technique I always use to create these kind of animation. And again you can see that I have replicated the same up nostril animations to the down nostril and only change the rotation to 35° clockwise for the down nostril. That is the down nostril, and it will move to 35° like that. And I hope you got my point. Now we will come to the open mouth. So for the open mouth, that open mouth I want to appear at a specific time, and for that I am using a delay timing of 1.25 seconds. And that is when this object will appear, and for that I am using the basic zoom in effect. If I double click on this effect, you can see the settings here, zoom in, and with a timing of 0.6 seconds with a delay timing of 1.25 seconds. So why delay timing 1.25 seconds? Let me show you the slideshow again. And here you can see that at 1.25 seconds that red mouth will appear with a basic zoom in effect. And during slideshow, if you want to mute the sound, you can hide this object, the duck sound that I have inserted, by clicking on the insert tab and then click on audio and then choose audio on my PC. And later I want this open mouth to disappear, and for that I am using the basic zoom out effect, and that effect you can see in the add animation more exit effect, and here you can find that basic zoom effect. So I am using the basic zoom out effect with a duration of 0.6 seconds and a delay timing of 1.85 seconds. And how I choose the delay timings, it depends on the duration of the animation, and for that I would like to show you an example. As you can see that this animation duration is 0.65 seconds and the delay timing of this effect is 1.25 seconds. That means this effect will end at 1.90 seconds, and I want this mouth to disappear at 1.90 seconds. So that is the right way to choose the delay timings, and I am using the same duration timing, 0.60 seconds. And let me show you the slideshow. Okay, now we will talk about the tiers, and let me hide all of this. And we'll make this left down tier 1 visible. And let me tell you one more thing here. I am using the insert shapes freeform shape, and that is one of my favorite shape from the shape menu, and that is because you can draw custom shapes quickly using this shape tool. Let me show you an example. Here you need to click once and then you can start choosing the points where you will start doing a curve later on. After closing this, you will get shape format, and let me choose no fill so you can see the outline alone, and then you can choose the edit shape, edit points, and can make curves in them. Or you can delete a point by right clicking on it and then choose delete point, and later you can customize it as you want by using these handles. So that way you can create custom shape, and I always use the same technique to create these kind of shapes. That totally depends on you, that how you want to add or delete points to create custom shapes, and where you want to make the point straight, or want to make a corner, or want to make that particular point smooth point. That totally depends on you. And the first animation on this teardrop is the arc up motion path, and that you can apply from the animations, add animation, more motion path, and here you can find that arc up motion path. And here I would also like to give you a quick tip. When you apply these kind of motion paths, you can go to the effect option, and here you can choose edit points, and that way you can customize the motion path as you want. And for this motion path I am using 0.75 duration and no smoothness, no auto reverse. I want this drop to go to the left and get disappeared, and for the timing I am using 0.75 seconds. Hit the OK key. And the second effect on this object is the spin animation. I want this teardrop to move to the left, but during that I also want it to spin at 75-degree counterclockwise. And for the timing I am using 0.75 seconds and always with previous. And the third animation effect on this object is the grow shrink effect with 0% in size. That way it will get disappear. I am not using disappear animation or fade out animation. I think that is the right way to make this object shrink and get disappeared. That way it will look more realistic, and in the timing you can see I am using the same duration, 0.75 seconds. So once you have one tier ready, what you can do, you can copy the same object by going to the home tab, click copy and then click paste, or you can also use Ctrl C and V. Now we want one tier for the right side, and after replicating the same tier, what you can do, you can place it like here and go to the shape format, click the rotate drop down button and choose flip horizontally. But that is not going to change the direction of the motion path. That you have to do manually by selecting the effect from the animation pan, and then you can drag and drop this handler to change the position of the same animation to the right side. So that is the technique I always use to replicate animation for both of the sides. And then you can start replicating these tiers again and can then place on top of the previous one. That way it will hide the other objects. And you can also notice one thing, that if I turn on the head, and later I am hiding these tiers behind the head. As you can see in the selection pane also, that the head layer is on top of rest of the tier layers, and you are seeing this tier on top of this layer because I have just replicated it. So following the same steps, you can create as many tiers you want, and when you apply animation first and then copy and paste an object, then the animations also get copied and pasted along with the objects, and that is the benefit in PowerPoint. And let me show you all of these objects again. And here you can see that all the tiers have the same animations with different delay timings. Only the delay timing has been changed, and here you can see the direction of each of the tier where it is going to land. And finally, let's talk about the down eyebrow and up eyebrow. Let me hide rest of the objects so you can see only the eyebrows. And here we have the down eyebrow and the up eyebrow. And if I show you the slideshow of only these eyebrow, you can see that first the down eyebrow moves 4 times, then the up eyebrow appears and it takes the long motion path. So how we are doing this? We are using the same motion path animation effect as we have used for the head, and what we are doing, we are hiding this down eyebrow at a specific time. The delay timing of this animation is 1.25 seconds, and that is the disappear effect, and that you can apply from the add animation, exit animation, disappear, and the delay timing is 1.25 seconds. Then I want this up eyebrow to appear at the same time when the down eyebrow is disappearing, and then we are using the long motion path for the up eyebrow, and we are also using the grow shrink effect by increasing the size vertically to 105%. Let me show you the meaning of this animation. If I increase this animation growth to 180%, then you will, so how much stretch you want to apply on the up eyebrow depends on the growth rate of this animation. So I am increasing this up eyebrow to only 105%, a little growth. So I hope I have covered all these animation effects in this tutorial, and that is all. And I hope you will like this tutorial. Let me know by liking, sharing and commenting on this video, and you can also subscribe to my channel for more upcoming tutorial videos. Thanks for watching and have a great day.